Hey everybody, and welcome to this video about how we can take a Laravel web application and deploy it to Heroku. I'm right here on the website here for Heroku, and you can see that this is a cloud hosting platform that we can use to host various programming languages and also their frameworks. So we have JS frameworks, we have Ruby on Rails, we could also use Node.js or something like that. We have PHP, Laravel, Python, other languages. So this is a great way to get your app online, whether it is a real web application or you're making a REST API and you just need somewhere to host it. So what do we need to do to get this up and running, this hosting here? Well, first you need to create an account in Heroku. So you can click on the sign up and fill out your details here, and you can create a free account to do this. I have already done this, so I'm just going to log in. Actually, we don't need to log in right now, but we need something more to make this work. This is the Heroku CLI. So we're just gonna search for Heroku CLI, and we're gonna get a couple of search hits here. We're going to go with this one there. So that will take us to the Heroku CLI information page, and you can find a downloader and an installer for your operating system. And I already downloaded it, but yeah, you just pick whatever installer for your operating system, and that you should be ready to go then. So this is going to allow us to use the Heroku command line interface when we are deploying the application. But we also need to have an application, of course. So we're gonna open up our favorite editor, my favorite editor here, and we're gonna open up a terminal. And I have XAMPP installed on this machine to give me a local web server here. So we're gonna install a brand new Laravel web application, the newest one, to this XAMPP web server. So we're going to do this with Composer to do the create project. So let's just call it new Laravel. This might take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to be back when it's done. Alright, so now we can see that Composer has finished installing Laravel, and if we just open up the project using Control-KO or Command-O on a Mac, we can have Visual Studio Code open the project, so we can see the different files and directories. Okay, so we have a local Laravel application here up and running, and if we take a look in localhost, we visit new Laravel. You can see this is, it's just a brand new Laravel application without anything special to that. So let's try to see if we can deploy this on Heroku. We need to create a new file inside of our project that will allow us to use this with Heroku, and it's called Procfile. So we will right click in this area, a new file, Procfile, and this is kind of a configuration file for Heroku. And we're going to write web : and then vendor bin Apache 2 and then public. And this is our way of telling Heroku what kind of setup we want for this hosting here. And you can see we want to have a PHP setup because it's Laravel, and I've written here Apache 2, and that is the web server. So in here you could actually write Nginx if you wanted to have another web server running this application, but I think for this demonstration it's okay just to have Apache 2. So this is enough for the Procfile, so we're going to save this and close that file there. So now we need to get our terminal back here, and before we can do anything we need to create a project on Heroku, and to do this we need to actually log into Heroku so that it can see that we have an account there. So we're going to do Heroku login, and this should open up a browser where we can provide our credentials here, and I think I've been logged in before, but otherwise you provide the email and the password. So we click login. Yeah, actually I needed to do that, so we'll just do that. Logged in, that's good. We can close the tab here. And if we go back, it will state that you've been logged in as this email. So that's cool. So the next thing is that we need to actually get this source code to Heroku. And we can do this with the Git version control. So we're gonna initialize a default repository here. And we can see we have a whole bunch of files. They've been tracked now. And we will add all of them to our repository. I'm not going to worry so much about the git ignore right now and the env file, because this is just a demonstration. But of course, if you're deploying an app, we should think a little bit about maybe adding some of these files. And Laravel is kind to actually add them defaultly, but if you had a web application, you should worry about putting the confidential files with all the database specific stuff in there hidden from the Git, and put that into the git ignore. Okay, so we have added all the files, and we're just gonna commit that to Git here, and we're just gonna call this initial import. So that's been committed, and now we need to create a new application on Heroku. So we will do Heroku create using the Heroku command line interface, and it's going to tell us that it's creating an app, Morning Earth, and that's kind of a random URL that Heroku is using. So this is our new URL for our web application. And now we can back into Heroku. We can see that we get a dashboard, and now we have Morning Earth as it's stated in the terminal here. And if we go into the application, we can see that we have a new web application up and running, and we haven't committed anything yet, but we have various options here. We can attach resources like a database, and we're going to do this in a minute. And there is also metrics and settings and other cool stuff. You can attach an SSL certificate. You can apply a custom domain for that. So that's cool. But first we're gonna actually get this source code up to Heroku. Yeah, but first, if we execute the command git remote v, you can see that Heroku has already provided the correct git path, so we can push all of our code. We can push this master branch here to Heroku. So it should be building right now, and now this is gonna happen remotely. It's gonna set up everything. It's gonna create all the dependencies for Laravel, and in a minute it should finish up. Yep, compressing. And if we head back to our, yeah, we can see now deployed with this config, with this commit ID here, and we can also see the Apache server that it has received that we want to use this web server, and we can open up the app by clicking on this button here. Oh, that was too much there, and we get a server error. So why do we do that? Well, that's because if we take a look inside the env file of Laravel, that we have a lot of settings variable, a lot of environment variables, and we also need Heroku to know that, because otherwise it's not gonna allow us to run this. So there is two ways we can do this. One way is that we can go inside settings, and we can click reveal var for variables, and then we can create these key value pairs. And if we take the first one here, the first one could be app debug that we're gonna put, and we're just gonna put true in the value. Save that one there. And if we refresh, then we should have the reason why it's not working in Laravel. Yeah, so we can see that now we've enabled debug, and Laravel is going to tell us what is wrong. So no application encryption key has been specified. That means that we have this app key in environment variables that we also need to provide. So we're going to put this key in here, and let's call it app key, and let's put add in here. If we refresh again, so now that we can see that we've actually uploaded this application that we had on localhost already. So we had new Laravel on localhost, and now we've already deployed it to Heroku. So that is good. That is really good. Now we need to set up a bit more to make this work completely, because we haven't done anything about the database or anything. We haven't attached the database, so we couldn't do migrations or something like that. In order to do this, we need to set the rest of the configuration variables, and we could do this in the settings, but there is also another way that we can do it that I'm going to show you here. If I can select the correct place here. Heroku config, add, and then we can take, for instance, the app name. Let's just call this Laravel. Then we click, and it's going to say setting this variable and restarting the server. So that is good. If we update Heroku's dashboard, it has set the app name there. So that's good. So that is another way of providing these environment variables here. So I'm just gonna put the rest of the variables here. We also have the app environment, and that should usually be production because we're deploying it to a cloud service now. So we're gonna put production for this. We also need to provide the URL, and it is not localhost anymore, but it is this random URL that we get from Heroku. So we're going to put this in there, that we're going to add app URL. So that is also nice. Okay. Then we need to worry about or think about the database, because we've set up the primary environment variables now, and we have a working Laravel, but we need also to make this migration stuff work. And the way we do this is that you go to resources, and here we can add extra elements to our setup here. And if we need to have database, we can use the Postgres relational database, and it works basically the same as MySQL that we have in the local version here in XAMPP. Yeah, and you can click provision here, but there are different plans that you can select. I've selected the Hobby Dev, that is the free one, but you can also get paid options where you have more scalability or more server power. But this fits really, really good with when you have a free setup here that you want to demo here. Then we don't need to have all this extra server power. But let's imagine that you were running a REST API and you had a lot of users connecting to this REST API. Then you had the option of actually upgrading or scaling the database. Okay, so now we have the database here, and we need to get the credentials for actually logging into this database. And how do we do this? We can execute this command here. Credentials URL, and this will give us the login information for the database. And we have database name, we got the port, we got the host as well, we have user and password, which is really, really cool. So now we're going to set the rest of the environment variables, because we need, as you can see in the environment file here, the env file of Laravel, that we need to provide the DB connection, the host and the port and the database and username and password for Laravel to actually work with migrations and for actually saving any data into the database. So we're going to put in config and then DB connection, and instead of MySQL we're going to put in Postgres SQL, PGSQL, to tell Heroku that we're running this database. We also need to put in the host, and I'm just going to select the host name here. There we have the host name. We also need to have the port. It's 5432. And we need to set the database. So that is the database name there. We need to set the username. There it is. Let's see if I can manage to put all these variables before it disappears in the terminal here. And finally the password. And alright, so database password. So we've set all the variables, the environment variables in the settings, and let's just have a look of, yeah, all here. Host, database connection, URL, port, yeah. So we should be able to do a migration here with Laravel, and we can run Heroku run. So this will allow us to do normal PHP artisan commands, and normally we would do migrate to tell Laravel to migrate its database definitions here, all the migrations there. Yeah. So it's going to ask us, do we want to run this command? Yeah, we do. And migration table created successfully. So that is really, really cool there. Now we don't have authentication or registration there, but we could easily put this in here. We can, if we want to take a look at how this really looks like in the database, we can go on resources and the Heroku Postgres and click this little link there. That will take us to kind of a database administration page, and there we can see let's just have a look here, because that's weird. Yeah, okay. So we got 4 tables that kind of was disappearing before, and the data size and all that stuff. And if we go to data clips, we're able to create a data clip that will allow us to do SQL statements. We can also see the tables over here. We have migrations, we have users, and the schema, that it's a varchar and the ID as an integer and all that. And if we want to see the migrations, so we can do select everything from migration, and we can give it a name, save and run. That will query the database, and you can see here that we have done all these migrations like we normally do in Laravel, and but this is on a cloud hosting service now. So we could work with this web application now and create views, and we can create all bunch of cool stuff here. One last thing here, if we want to if we should make a quick demo of us actually working with this application here, we can see that we have the whole application local on Git here, and if we, let's just say we want to modify this Laravel so that we can see the change on the online version. If we find the resources, the views, and we select the welcome blade, this is the page that Laravel displays by default here, and we find the Laravel text. So we can modify the text so it says Laravel on Heroku. Small change here. And let's just issue git add, because we've changed the welcome blade, as we can see. Git commit, right, issue here small, views change in welcome blade. Okay, so we're gonna push this to we need to put in the complete path here. So we're going to push this to Heroku again, and Heroku is going to build the application once again, and making sure that we have the most up-to-date version. So that is done, and we can go back. I'm just going to go, let's just close this one there, and let's just see that we've actually deployed it. Once again, we get a new commit message just now and a new version number, and if we refresh it, we have an update here. So it is actually working this command line interface and updating your app. All right, I think this concludes how you can deploy rather easily, I think, a Laravel web application to Heroku. Thank you for watching and have fun with this. Bye bye.